Hi friends, have you ever had a promise from the Lord and you thought, okay, it's going to happen tomorrow, but it doesn't? You have to wait for it? Well, I know exactly how you feel, and God really wants you to know that He has a purpose in your waiting season. That purpose is to receive revelation from His heart. In this series, I'm sharing some of the revelation that I've received while waiting on God. Today's word is a revelation of wisdom. In Daniel chapter 1, starting in verse 15, we see a record of an incredible story. It says, at the end of the 10 days of eating only vegetables, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the young men who had been eating the food assigned by the king. So after that, the attendant fed them only vegetables instead of the food and wine provided for the others. God gave these 4 young men an unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom. And God gave Daniel the special ability to interpret the meaning of visions and dreams. When the training period ordered by the king was completed, the chief of staff brought all the young men to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and no one impressed him as much as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the royal service. Whenever the king consulted them on any matter requiring wisdom and balanced judgment, he found them 10 times more capable than any of the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom. This account grabbed the attention of my husband and I, and we have been believing God for a long time to be 10 times wiser than the wisest of people in the world's system. But that doesn't come by accident. Daniel achieved this, and so did his 3 friends. How did they do that? 1, they did not defile themselves with the world's system. In Daniel chapter 1, verse 5a and verse 8, it says, the king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from his own kitchens. But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat any of these unacceptable foods. 2, they were in community together. They had the mind of Christ. They did not try to be on their own having all this wisdom. One day, the king was about to annihilate all of his wise men because they could not interpret his dream. But enter Daniel and his 3 friends from chapter 2, verses 14 to 17. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to kill them, Daniel handled the situation with such wisdom and discretion. He asked Arioch, why has the king issued such a harsh decree? So Arioch told him all that had happened. Daniel went out once to see the king and requested more time to tell the king what his dream meant. Then Daniel went home and told his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, what had happened. Verses 48 to 49 says, then the king appointed Daniel to a high position and gave him many valuable gifts. He made Daniel ruler over the whole province of Babylon, as well as chief over his wise men. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be in charge of all the affairs of the province of Babylon, while Daniel remained in the king's court. Number 3, they had humility. They did not think that they owned this gift, but they knew it came from God. In Daniel chapter 2, verses 27 to 28 and verse 30, it says, Daniel replied, there are no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or fortune tellers who can reveal the king's secret. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets. And it is not because I am wiser than anyone else that I know the secret of your dream. but because God wants you to understand what was in your heart. Number 4, they went to God and asked him for wisdom. In Daniel 2:18 and 19, he urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them his secret, so that they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon. That night the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. The world needs God's children to have this kind of wisdom for the myriad difficult situations that come up every day in our own workplaces and government. As children of the new covenant, we ought to be actively believing God to use his gifts in the situations that we face. It's as easy as asking God for wisdom and then listening to his heart to receive it. Don't be afraid to get together with people of like precious faith and ask for their prayers and insights too. And remember humility. It's all God, not you. James 1:5-8 says, if you need wisdom, ask our generous God and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in all they do. 1 Corinthians 2:16 says, for who can know the Lord's thoughts? Who knows enough to teach him? But we understand these things, for we have the mind of Christ. And 1 Peter 5:6 says, so humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time, he will lift you up in honor. Well, that's all for today. I have written the scriptures that I read or referred to in this video in the description of this chat. So make sure you check those out and tap into the remarkable resource of God's wisdom for all the situations you're facing in your life. And then make sure you join me again right back here on Monday at 12 Central. Have a blessed week.